Ave. Today I'd like to do a deep dive into Cyberpunk 2077 and a little bit of Witcher 3 maybe to discuss what we have learned from those two games and what CDPR could possibly do better in Witcher 4 and what we can hope for. Let's start with the issues. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 had a lot of hype, and for good reason. CDPR had just come off The Witcher 3, and expectations were through the roof. But as we know, the game came up a little short. First up, the voice acting. A lot of it felt forced, exaggeratedly bro-y, and sometimes it was just cringy, to be honest. Instead of feeling natural, it ended up feeling more like a caricature of cool, which hurt the immersion in my opinion. He just tries too hard. It kind of reminds me of Kyle Crane from Dying Light. I sort of wish we had somebody more like Johnny Silverhand, who was really natural at what he was doing. Perhaps it's a question of having a better voice actor, or perhaps it's just a question of setting the tone. But I was never a fan of Geralt's voice either, to be quite honest with you. It does get tiring at times. The difference is that with Witcher, it's very specific, very different, so you kind of accept it as being very specific. Whereas in Cyberpunk, V doesn't sound very specific, doesn't sound very different. He doesn't have his own style, even if it's annoying like Witcher. But he had his own style at least, whereas in Cyberpunk, V just sounds like a normal person, but a caricature of a normal person, just exaggerated in the way he talks. So I don't think CDPR does the protagonist voice very well. They could definitely do better in that sense, but all the other characters had amazing voice acting in both of those games. Then there's the mission structure. It's pretty much linear A to B to C setup. You know, the typical Ubisoft style, follow the marker system. In my opinion, it's just too predictable and it takes away the excitement of exploring. A lot of times I found myself just opening the map and going from marker to marker. And this is something that I believe a lot of us are getting tired of. Players are told where to go and what to do, and it doesn't leave much room for creativity and discovery. It feels like hand-holding in the worst of ways. And of course there's the map. It's just overloaded with tasks, side missions, gigs, and random events. There's so much to do that it turns into a sensory overload. Sure, it's packed with content, but it lacks the depth. It's quantity over quality. The map is just peppered with so many icons, and I understand that there's a lot of icons you can filter out, but then you feel like you're missing out on something. So you want to do everything when you're in one certain area. You want to make sure you do everything that that area offers, and by turning it off, you might miss something and then want to go back and do it. So you kind of want to leave it on, but then it gets really, really too much. And a lot of those missions, unfortunately, don't feel meaty. They don't feel like they bring anything to the table. It's just a lot of filler. And then there's the bugs. Even years after release, players are still reporting mission-breaking bugs. I've had quite a few of them myself. It's gotten better, for sure, but a lot of issues are still there, and that breaks the immersion in a game where immersion is everything. There are multiple side missions, important side missions, character side missions, where it is absolutely impossible to activate the quest. Towards the end of the game, I could not finish multiple quests because you were supposed to receive a call from a lot of those, and the call would never come. Even when you pass the time and go through multiple days, even weeks, you would still not get the call to trigger that mission. And a lot of times I felt like giving up. And then when I looked online on their own forums and on Reddit and everywhere else, you'd have people telling you to go from A to B on a specific road, or sleeping in a specific building, or just walking back from Pacifica to the Badlands, not fast traveling, and all these really annoying solutions, quote unquote, that just turned into a lot of busy work where you don't even have a guarantee that that's going to trigger it. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. So that was really disappointing. And the most disappointing, perhaps, is not being able to do the best ending, which was the Pan Am ending that I could not do, because at some point there's a wave of robots that attacks you, and you're supposed to eliminate all of them to proceed. And some of these robots were invulnerable. Like, you would take them down from 100% to 0, their health bar would go to 0, and they would just not die no matter what you did. And I would spend 10 extra minutes just bombing them, trying to hit them, and nothing would happen. The mission was just stuck. And then I restarted only to have the same bug over again. So there's that one ending that I couldn't finish, and it was my favorite ending. So yes, to be fair, I don't expect to see the majority of these bugs in Witcher 4, because I think that they got a real beating when it came to bugs and Cyberpunk, and they truly learned their lessons. I don't think they could have done much better in terms of fixing this game that was broken at the core, but they're for sure being extremely careful for the next one. So that's kind of a point on the side, because I don't expect this to be an issue, at least not in a major way like Cyberpunk was. Now, credit where credit is due, CDPR did some things incredibly well. The visuals, stunning. 6 years after its release, Cyberpunk still has some of the best graphics out there. The atmosphere, the city, it feels truly alive. I've never seen anything more gorgeous in my life in any game. And this is without talking about mods. You've probably seen the mods where it turns everything extremely realistic, but just as is, the game looks absolutely stunning in every way possible. The city is like a character in itself. It's so beautiful. Everywhere you look, it's handcrafted and gorgeous. Even if you're not doing anything, it's just a pleasure walking around. So more of this, please. And the romance arcs were a high point, especially the female characters, the way they write them. CDPR does the females very, very well. Shani in Witcher 3 was incredibly well crafted. She was beautiful, but also intelligent, fun. She would really get to you. And same with Pan Am and Cyberpunk. They felt like real people, multi-dimensional. They added real depth to the game. At some point, I really felt excited when I would get a call from Pan Am. Yes, I might have fallen a little bit in love with her, but I don't like to talk about that very much. But here's the thing. Cyberpunk suffers from overpopulation sometimes. There are just way too many NPCs, most of whom don't add much value. They're just there. I understand that they fill the city and make it feel alive, but that's just when you zoom out. When you zoom in, you just feel like they're in your way. They make the game look busy, but it comes off as visual clutter without real substance at times. This is an issue Witcher 3 didn't have, even in big cities. So how could CDPR make The Witcher 4 better? They could start by drawing inspiration from games like Elden Ring, Wukong, or even Kingdom Come Deliverance, where exploration is really meaningful. You have enough characters, but not too many, and finding missions is fun in itself. You discover missions as you go, a little bit like the old Skyrim, where you just stumble upon something that seems like a small mission and ends up being a huge, incredible mission, perhaps one of the best missions that you could have easily missed. And it's nowhere to be seen on the map. You just discover it by exploring. These kinds of things is what makes us fall in love with RPGs. Instead of guiding players with a map full of icons, they could go with some more minimalistic approach that encourages players to really explore. It's about finding things on your own, connecting to the world, and rather than mindlessly following markers from point A to point B. I've had friends who complained that Wukong and Elden Ring didn't have direction. They would say things like, okay, I started the game and I have no idea what to do. This is bad. I need something to do. Well, that's what's great, actually, in my opinion. It's the game forcing you to live in it, to discover it, to learn every corner, to know what's going on. And this discovery is part of the fun. And you lose that when you have a million icons on the map telling you exactly what to do and where to go. Now, Witcher 3 wasn't without shortcomings itself. As great as it was, it had its own flaws. For one, some quest lines felt really repetitive, especially the monster contracts. You'd find a notice, go to the location, track the monster, and kill it. That could really be expanded on. It would be great to see more variety and deeper, more dynamic quest structures. Also, while Witcher 3 had strong character moments, not every side character felt as fleshed out as it could be. The Witcher 4 could benefit from fewer but richer side characters, each with a unique impact on the story. Lastly, combat. While combat in Witcher 3 was solid, by now it's really dated. Obviously, I expect a lot of advancement in the combat, but I do hope that the combat becomes one of the main characters as well. A little bit like in Wukong. We want more complexity, more variety. That could go a long way. So to wrap it up, CDPR, if you're listening, focus on the depth over sheer size, make exploration more rewarding, and keep giving us those incredible character arcs that we really love. Let's hope Witcher 4 is the masterpiece that it has the potential to be. See you in 2026?